Excelentísimo.
Your Excellency, Mr. Chairman, this 70th session of the General Assembly, President of the 70th session of the General Assembly, Your Excellencies, heads of state and government, distinguished delegates, ladies and gentlemen. What better way to commemorate the 70th anniversary of the United Nations organization than to renew hope in a future of opportunities for all nations of the world. Mexico hails the adoption of the Agenda 2030 for Sustainable Development. This is a historic agreement for humankind for the benefit of social inclusion, shared prosperity, the protection of the environment, the respect for human rights, and universal peace. The 17 goals and the 169 targets of sustainable development of this agenda reflect the determination and commitment of our nations to respond to the complex social, economic, and environmental challenges of our time. It's clear that there are no easy solutions or shortcuts to resolve the problems facing humankind. The positive and lasting changes that today's world needs can only be achieved through responsibility, perseverance, and common effort. And this is precisely the very essence of Agenda 2030. To build a global alliance, a serious alliance, and broad in scope, that draws sustenance in the values and aspirations that gave birth to the United Nations organization. This vital document is the outcome of an inclusive, constructive, and transparent dialogue that renews the relevance of multilateralism as a major transformative force of our civilization. For Mexico, it has been a great honor to participate in the organization of various consultations and, of course, in the final negotiations of this agreement. With great pride and satisfaction, my country welcomes the inclusion in the Agenda 2030 of various of the proposals that we put forward. First of all, to establish social inclusion and economic inclusion as a guiding principle of the new Sustainable Development Goals. Secondly, adopt a much broader concept of poverty based on a multidimensional approach, which in addition to considering the income of individuals, takes into account their effective access to basic rights such as food, education, health, social security, and basic housing services. Thirdly, to consider gender equality and the empowerment of women as a cross-cutting factor of development. Fourthly, recognize the rights of migrants and their positive contribution to the development of both countries of origin and destination. Fifthly, include the preservation of biodiversity and the adoption of national commitments to confront climate change as key instruments of sustainable development. Now, stemming from this responsibility, Mexico will host in 2016 the Conference of Parties of the Convention on Biodiversity. And sixthly, recognize the rule of law as an essential requirement for development. Now that we've defined the Agenda 2030, it is now up to our nations to implement public policies that make it possible to achieve the goals and targets of that agenda. In this process, Mexico proposes to the nations gathered here to embrace the principles of openness and citizen participation that characterize the new paradigm of open governments. This is precisely what we will be promoting in the Global Summit on Open Government that will take place in my country a month from now. Mr. President of the General Assembly, ladies and gentlemen, the international community has managed to agree on the contents of Agenda 2030. Now, the challenge is to ensure that it is effectively implemented. While this agenda is universal, its proper implementation requires a national strategy. Aware of this, Mexico accepts Agenda 2030 as a commitment of our state, as a collective mission. We will join our efforts, determine our determinations, our wills, and our resources, and by doing that, we will fulfill the goals and targets of the agenda to transform in a positive way the lives of millions of Mexicans, and thus contribute to universal development. Thank you very much.
I thank His Excellency the President of Mexico for his statement and for doing it within time. The Assembly will now hear an address by Her High Excellency Dalia, the President of the Republic of Lithuania.